We saved the best for last. Susan Wortzman, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about what you do and why you're here at Legal Week.
I'm actually a lawyer.
You're actually a lawyer. Why do you preface that way?
I try to pretend not to be a lawyer because it's more fun doing all this tech stuff. So
lawyers can't do all this tech stuff?
We do all the tech stuff, but we're just not known for doing all the tech stuff. It's not kind of what our clients think about us for. So I'm a partner at a law firm called McCarthy Tétrault, and I run a division, MT3. So MT3 is the 3 is the MT obviously is McCarthy Tétrault. The 3 is the triangle, which is people, process, and technology. So we are their team that does all their e-discovery and their data governance.
Do you have like a Lean Six Sigma background, or have you just learned this by actually being in it and working?
Learned it by being in it, but really great people. Like I had early on sort of real project managers, not law clerks,
real project managers.
Real project managers, but not just law clerks, just morphing. I did have those too, but I learned mostly from people who have real project management skill. So I have none of that training myself.
But being around them, I'm guessing you've picked up a lot of like project management skills and.
Yeah, I don't even want to tell you how long ago I was working on a project, and this is like before e-discovery, where I had hundreds of lawyers in a room numbering documents and then photocopying documents. So that project, same project management stuff. And then
it just wasn't called project management.
It wasn't called, well, I did have a project manager. It wasn't called it, and it wasn't called e-discovery then. And we had people sitting there like literally sticking numbers on every piece of paper so that we could photocopy it. This was pre-scanning. That's how long I've been at this.
Yeah, it's funny, like, I have a number of friends who started in e-discovery when it was still paper and have like been through the entire process. Like even, and Andrew Seja wasn't in e-discovery when it was only paper. That was his whole thing. It was like, the digital, transformation. But I do have some friends who've been in it, the Messing brothers, Rachi and Shimi Messing, both kind of started in it in like the early, like late 90s when it was still, reams and reams of paper and binders. And
we still do. Like we'll have like a case now, and we'll have, 5 terabytes of data, and everything's like moving, everything's perfect, and then it's like, by the way, there's 20 boxes of paper sitting here and you need to come and pick it up. It's like, oh. But anyway.
But there is something about paper that's nice, right? Not in for like e-signatures. No one needs to print. That's stupid. Printing out in order to sign something and then scan it back, that's silly. But there is something that I've found. There's a certain comfort in reading paper. It's flexible. It has certain advantages. Do you still find that lawyers want to use paper sometimes to review?
Yeah, so it's the tactile experience, but it's also, I think, to properly proofread, there is a generation that needs to do that on paper. That's just historically, like that's me. If I really have a contract and I have to look at every single word and proofread it, I have to print it.
Who is that not? You think there's really a generation already that doesn't want to proofread that way?
I think there's a generation that doesn't want to print paper and doesn't want to proofread it that way, but they don't do it as well. They make mistakes.
They make mistakes.
Because they're doing it online. And then they have the other people kind of come along behind them, print it out, go through it, and find all the mistakes.
So it's something I've brought up on a couple of conversations during Legal Week, but I think it's my greatest insight is, are you a Harry Potter reader at all?
I read them with my son a long time ago.
Okay. Do you remember who it is who's responsible for the gold?
No.
Okay, so the goblins are in charge of the gold and all the vaults. And I think that there's something that J.K. Rowling really got right on that, which is as you get really closer, not to making money, but to the possibility of losing money, that's where we decide, no, we're not trying anything new. We're not trying anything high-tech. We're going to do it the way the goblins have been doing it for thousands of years. And I do think there's something about when you purchase, when you pay a lawyer to do something, there is a kind of goblin quality to like, listen, now we're at a place where we can lose a lot of money. Let's let the goblins do their work. And I mean that in the nicest way. Like, I think that...
But that's the whole point, that AI is not going to take over all of the role of what lawyers do, because we believe that there are all those day-to-day tasks, there's routine tasks, there's things that can be automated over and over again, but what can't be automated and where AI will never really take over is the real thinking part of lawyering and the real strategy, the giving advice, giving opinions. Like, that's the human element of it.
Now, you've been at Legal Week now. So you got in on Sunday, or?
I came in Monday.
You came in Monday. So you've had a couple of days here. You've had some interesting meetings. Have you toured the floor at all?
Yep, a little bit.
Have you seen anything that really caught your eye that stood out to you?
Not on the floor.
That's a common sentiment.
But because I spend very little time on the floor, so we spend 90% of our time meeting with
ALM's going to edit this out.
Meeting with companies that we, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
meeting with companies that we know we want to talk. We know we want to talk to them. We've looked at the products. We've been talking to them all year. We want to meet them face to face. We want to get the demo. We want to get, the touch and the feel. And so we're very targeted. And it's just, sometimes I shake my head and say, why do I do this in Legal Week? Because I'm not spending as much time. I like to go on the floor, and I went to the keynote, but why am I doing this here? And I could just do this in demos, but everybody's here. So it's just great because it's my focus. So it's
Is Richard Susskind here, by the way? I feel like I haven't. Is it a legal conference if we don't see Richard Susskind somewhere?
I have not seen Richard here.
Yeah, it's.
But he was in London last week.
He was in London. I missed him at London because I had to leave Clock a few minutes early.
Oh,
you were in Clock London last week. What were your thoughts? Like, did you have?
So that was really interesting.
Had you been to Clock? You'd never been before at all?
I'd never been before. So less my world, because legal operations is less my world, although I'm getting involved in it because our firm's really innovative and they're looking at all kinds of
Your firm really is innovative. We'll get to that.
And different delivery, different kind of client service delivery options. So it was very interesting. The quality of speakers was great. And for me, just seeing that different perspective and, listening to all the legal operations people talk about their innovation was fascinating for me. And I think it was just the change. Like, you can come to, I go to certain conferences every year, and that was, I think, the newness of it.
It's funny, I've been going to Clock for the last few years, and I kind of when I was sitting at Clock, I was thinking, I've kind of heard some of this stuff before, and how new is this really? But I forget that, like, that's my job is to go to these conferences. And so I kind of, you don't want to always be that kid who was like, summer camp was better last summer, right? But that's kind of how I felt, being at. But I recognize that most of the attendees at Clock, they may have been there for their first time. I met a number of people,
tons of people
who were there for their first time, and seeing what Clock has is still quite new and fresh to them.
I think so. So the difference, coming here, it's less sitting and listening to like a day of lectures. It's really coming here is really looking at products for us and talking to people and also solidifying relationships, which is always
right.
exciting.
Now, you've been in ediscovery for a while, and you've built your career as a litigator. Now that are you seeing the same sort of? Well, what I'm seeing is the demand from law firms, in particular, where someone who's been in charge of ediscovery is now being made into essentially head of practice solutions or head of practice innovation more broadly. The title can differ here and there, where they say, I demand the same technology and competence and sophistication that I'm getting on ediscovery. I want that for the rest of what it is that we're doing. And I think that's it's
interesting.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people at Clock that were talking about it. Like, when you heard them, ediscovery just kept coming in little pieces because it's a big chunk of their budget and its cost, and it's something they've seen lawyers really and vendors really focus on and manage over the years. And I also think it's really the springboard, because the machine learning and AI, we've been using this in ediscovery for years and years, and now all of a sudden the whole world's woken up and said, oh, there's something called AI, and I want it, and how can I use AI in my business, and how can I use AI to make my business operate better, to learn more about my customers or my clients, and we're sitting there saying, we've got this technology because we've been using it for a really long time. So I think that's really gonna pull the ediscovery vendors and the ediscovery experts into that whole new service area that we've barely,
So anecdotal, you and I I live in Israel, so you and I were talking, you've visited a bunch of times, and I asked friend of mine, we were having a conversation. I said, why is it the case that Israel has not been at the forefront of legal technology? Like, secret, there's a lot of Jewish lawyers, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, we're not...
Don't look at me.
I know, like, we're not, like, necessarily, like, this is not a field that we've not been exposed to. Cybersecurity companies in Israel are like a dime a dozen, and successful cybersecurity companies. I mean,
but
there's
all
so
your
many
tech is really successful, like in Israel.
right. So you'd think that we'd be producing more on in terms of legal technology, but one of the reasons we haven't is because Israel doesn't have the same evidence rules that they have in North America, and ediscovery was never really a part of the industry there. Yes, there's some of the big four who are there, will handle the occasional cross-border litigation that involves discovery, but on the whole, it's not really happening. And what that to me highlights is that the reason that so many of the best companies in legal are being built in the United States and North America broadly is that we have ediscovery here. And you'd think, okay, well, why does ediscovery, why does that lead to other, to other technologies? And well, because there's an entire industry of people who know how to build and sell technology into legal, and that experience doesn't exist in the rest of the world.
Well, it's interesting because there's a few out of Australia, right, which makes sense because it's Commonwealth and there's litigation there. Canada, there's a few.
Right, and I said, but you have,
we have litigation.
Yeah, and you have similar rules of evidence. In other words, it's not obvious.
But the UK has different rules of evidence. The EU has completely different. Israel, so it makes sense, I guess, where the innovation is. But then we've seen companies like Equivio and some come along over the years coming from Israel. I think the technology's there. It's just working with the developers as to how to deploy that and how to bring it into the discovery world.
And I think that's right. And I think that, but I do think that one of the things that ediscovery taught is, like, what kind of conversation does a vendor need to have with you on the law firm side to get you comfortable with using technology, and that's not a simple thing. And look, half the legal technology startups are trying to hire people from the ediscovery world to come help them sell their product, because you kind of need to know the right language if you're going to partner with a law firm.
All these vendors would ever need to do to make me feel a little bit comfortable was to not use the Enron data. Like, it drives me crazy. Every time I was in a demo today and we were looking at a product and they were using something other than the Enron data, we were halfway through and he said, I'm just going to switch to another area. And I said, I just want to say, this is so lovely that you're not using the Enron data. And he said, oh, I just switched to it. But it's like, it's hard, right? You're meeting with a vendor and they're showing you their product and they're showing you their tool and they're walking you through a demo that they've done 100 times. So they know exactly where it's going in and what's going to happen. And what's most powerful for me is when I take some data of our own and throw it into the tool, and we see how it works and how we use it. So we were looking at, but I guess last year, at some AI technology that they said could summarize documents in 10 seconds. And it turns out
it turns out they can summarize documents in Enron.
No, I actually said, okay, I was reading this article in the Globe and Mail this morning, pulled it down, loaded it in, and said, I want to see it summarize this. It was a two-page article. It did great. So, but that's what I want to see. I want to actually see this stuff work in real time, not with Enron data.
I'm guessing that you get pitched pretty regularly. Your companies are smart enough to know that, like, you're the person to go to, not the only person, but you're at least a person to go to sell. Have you like figured out yet, like, how it is that companies should approach you to sell to you, and are they getting it right, or?
I don't know. Some get it right, some get it wrong. Like, there's the cold emails into my mailbox, unfortunately, just get deleted unless I have a real need. Like, that's the key. If somebody has a real need for a product, so we're sitting on a case and we're struggling, we've got thousands of spreadsheets that need redaction, and something comes in and says, automated redaction, I might look at that, right? But I have hundreds of, like, cold emails in my mailbox, and I can't look at them. So it's really about, for me, what I'm paying attention to is what I'm what my trusted advisors are telling me about, and what I'm hearing from other people who I rely on, and then I have my own team that are more aggressive than I am looking for products, like whether it's ediscovery or information governance,
Sure.
whatever they're doing, they're really out there scanning the market and looking for products, and we're just constantly seeing demos. So I think it's and it's the same in any kind of sales.
How long do you want a demo to generally go? When someone comes to you and I want to demo the product, like, do you? Because I've found that the answer is different. Certain people say, I want the person to spend time with me, I want them to develop a relationship, and then others like, no, I want them to get this demo done in 10 to 15 minutes. I should not have to spend more time than that looking at this product.
So we saw a product today, and we were kind of jammed for time on both ends, and we probably had a 30-minute demo, which was enough for me to say, this is not enough time. We need 2 hour, like a 2 hour deep dive into this product so we can really make a decision.
Dive.
That means I like it. Okay? That means I like it. And at 20 minutes, I'm not going to buy any product. It's never going to be long enough. But it's enough for me to assess it. It's enough for me to say,
demo number 1 should be short, but demo number 2, if it happens, then you want to do a deep dive.
Yeah, and demo number 1 is really more, I want to know how the organization came into being. Like, is this developed off another platform? Is this developed as a processing tool or a review platform? How did these people sitting in the room with me, where do they fit in? I want to know that. I want to get a bit of a feel of the culture, because that's important to me too.
Sure.
A little bit. So that's 5-10 minutes, and then I hope they want to hear 5 minutes about what we do, and then I can see a demo in 20 minutes and say, yeah, I need to see this more, or thank you very much.
So we often think about law firms as buyers of legal technology, but MT3 and McCarthy's in general, and you and Matt Peters are now thinking beyond that in terms of like, how do we begin to be the developers of products and the sellers of products as well?
It's less products. I think that where we're thinking about it is solutions.
Solutions.
So what we are is problem solvers, and we have clients, and they come to us with problems, and we need to have solutions for them. And those solutions will have an overlay of legal advice, and then they'll have technology as part of them. Sorry, kill my phone.
Why? I kind of like that.
Why?
I felt like a masseuse is about to come in here. This is great. I'm getting my back cracked and the whole thing.
Nice calm music. So I can't even remember what I was saying.
Law firms on the development side and solutions.
Yeah. So I know, sort of have a general idea where I was. So we have to pull all those pieces together, right? Mm-hmm. We have to say to differentiate ourselves, we can't just be the law firm anymore that's sitting there with billable hours, and we're going to give you advice, but we have to say we have solutions for you, and they are going to bring technology to play. Like, so when we meet, for example, you met our Judith McKay, our chief client service officer. Mm-hmm. So Judith, she's told me the number one thing that GCs and our clients are concerned about is contract management right now. So her group's off there developing solutions for that. And those are not off-the-shelf, products that we're pulling together. It's really understanding your clients. Because if any of those products worked perfectly, there wouldn't be 20 of them on the market, and there would be sort of a market lead, and it would rise to the top. Well, it's a big problem right now.
Contract lifecycle management tools it's one of the most popular spaces. I just saw Ironclad raise a huge round from Sequoia.
It's
known that for a while. They just announced it today. But what's interesting is if you look at like the clock studies, or I think it was maybe Brad Blickstein's report that just came out. The tool that people are most unsatisfied with is contract lifecycle management.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you look at the clock study from last year, from 2017, what you find is that there's a pretty large percentage of companies that are building a contract lifecycle management tool in-house because the current available off-the-shelf solutions simply don't cater to them. And I think that really speaks to your point, is that a lot of times we try to you'll have tech companies that are trying to solve a problem for the entire market, but what you find out is that something like contracting is not something necessarily that can be off the shelf.
One size fits all. But but where we can help is you can take a firm like ours, And so we've talked to 30 clients, and they all have the same problem. And so we can go out to a vendor and say, look, these are the product modifications that you need. This is what your product doesn't do that our clients need it to do. And when you're a large law firm and you've got, financial services and oil and gas and all these different clients, you can go with enough weight and say, this is what we need in the marketplace, and we can bring our expertise and our legal advice and and it's not just legal, but our consulting advice.
Your clients trust you more than they might trust a tech company.
Because we're not selling the product. We're selling the solution.
You're selling the solution.
Yeah. And, we're not going to, sell this particular product necessarily. So before I joined McCarthy's, when I had my own firm, that was like my mantra. Like I always said, we were technology agnostic and vendor agnostic, and we would use all these different tools because I wasn't buying them all. I was too small, and it put us in a great place because we were agile, and we could say, okay, this is unbelievable. This product just came out, market lead, and we could push that out to our clients. So that was really important. That was really important for us, and it's how I want to stay at McCarthy's. So we sort of have. I just look at it as our huge toolkit. We've got all these different tools, and we listen to our clients, we listen to what they say and what their real problem is, and we say, oh, you know what, we have a solution for you. This one will actually work. As long as we know what all the tools are, we can help them get there faster.
And has that been the way you've been operating your entire career? Meaning you've been building, and I say building technology, but you've been solving using technology for a huge part of your career, because I think there's a sort of misconception that legal tech is this new thing, and that that's not what law firms do. Law firms are archaic. I think that's totally false. I think law firms have been in the business of technology for years. They just haven't positioned or marketed themselves as tech companies. So you kind of think, old conservative law firm.
It's what makes them nervous is consulting, is the word consulting, because they think we're lawyers and all we can really do is give legal advice. And so when they start to advise their clients on something that's not just legal advice, they're like, can we do this? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? This isn't traditional. And it makes no sense. Like, we have all of these experts. We have knowledge management people. We have engineers. We have technology people. And so it makes sense that it's somewhat of a consulting role.
I heard a great line from a partner at an AmLaw 50 firm. He didn't necessarily tell me I can go on the record with this, so I'll quote it anonymously. But he said, I'm constantly hearing about how the Big Four are coming for us. He said, joke's on them, I'm coming for the Big Four. And I think that there's starting to be a feeling more and more in law firms that, wait, why are we not okay with being consultants? Like, why should we?
Cybersecurity department that's responding to cyber breaches. And the thing that makes me crazy about all of this is ediscovery. Ediscovery is part of litigation. It's part of the legal process. Law firms should have owned this stuff from day one, and the accounting firms came in, and they think they own it. And it's crazy.
Do you think we're going to see a market correction now where law firms are going back and saying, hey, we're going to bring that work back in? Or do you think at this point, if you were a law firm that was clever enough to not let it walk out the door, then you've got it, and if you weren't, then tough?
I don't know. I can tell you there are lots of, my experience is more Canadian, so there's lots of law firms that are have that work walking out the door. There's some that are bringing it in-house. It's often a size thing. And we don't have the sort of same volume of litigation than you have here. Mm-hmm. But I think with the tools now, there's going to be a lot more law firms bringing it in-house because there's more options, it's more affordable, pricing's come down, and so they might have a managed service agreement. They might not have the technology department to run the back end on it, so they might prefer a managed service agreement or something like that. But for the most part, they want to bring this in-house.
So I think that aligns with a lot of the things that I've heard. My friend Jay who was on the podcast yesterday, just hired by Baker McKenzie, so she's said that it's where law firms have not been able to invest as much in technology procurement up until now. She said she believes that there is going to be a change, that over the next 2 to 3 years, when law firms redo pricing, when they rethink through a lot of the issues that you and I have discussing and have discussed, that then at that point, technology will be a very important asset for a firm, and that firms will then at that point begin investing quite a bit in technology procurement. And what's interesting is, and I've heard this from people at Relativity is making a very big push this year to show law firms why they should be bringing Relativity in-house. Typically Relativity had some law firm partners, but also had a lot of ediscovery vendors and Big Four and it's kind of the others.
It's a new pricing model. It was expensive for certain law firms that didn't have a huge volume of litigation, and now it's a new world.
And to your point, it wasn't something that was strictly legal work. Even though, as you point out, it's a critical part of of course it's legal work.
It is legal work. And somehow the accounting firm, like the Big Four, all got in there early and said, and we're going to buy whatever the tool is, and we're going to put this all in place. And the law firms were just kind of sitting there saying, we'll wait and see what happens. And everything was acquired through vendors, and very few in Canada were deploying it on-prem solutions. And I think that's really going to start to change. And there are so many great options now in the marketplace.
There are.
So that'll change. When before we joined McCarthy's, we advised a whole bunch of smaller law firms on what tools to deploy, and there were 2 or 3 options where we could actually get data hosted in Canada or whatever the options, however they were. Now, if someone came to me and said, "What tool should I use?" On-prem, I have a whole, or on demand in the cloud, like whatever. I have a whole bunch of options for them. So it's fun for us because we're looking at it too.
Well, listen, this has been fun. I'm hoping we can continue to catch up and in touch base. In
Israel next time.
And in Israel next time.
Okay.
Susan, thank you so much. You're the final podcast of Legal Week. This has been amazing hanging out and great getting to know you both in London and here, and hope to continue touching base. Yes, in Israel next time.